Thank you so much and welcome. This is the 7th annual honoring Neal Cassady, the beautiful work that he did, that his wife Carolyn did, that his 3 young folks, I say young folks because I'm probably the oldest person in the room, so to me everybody's young folks. His 2 wonderful daughters and son are continuing to do, which is to honor Denver, to honor the beautiful music of the Americas, and to reacquaint people with the fact that when Jack came here in 1947, Neal Cassady was the one who took Jack down to 5 Points and introduced him to a world he had never seen, dreamed about, or heard until he went there with Neal, who was brought up here in Denver. And Neal was one of those people who appreciated the beauty of the music and the culture and the people of that specific, fantastic place called 5 Points. Now, all these years later, 5 Points has the #1 jazz station in the country, Kuvo. And there's always some fantastic musicians who are here to grace us tonight. So I'd like to introduce them, and then we're going to play one tune we hadn't planned, but spontaneity is the key to everything, and the great guest artist we have plays at Chapultepec every week and has been a mainstay in the jazz scene in Denver for these many years. And since he's 6 months younger than me, he's one of my favorite young musicians ever. He's going to play one tune because he has another gig. It just came by, and we want to thank him, Freddy Rodriguez. And the trumpet master, when we did my symphonic variations on a song by Woody Guthrie with the Colorado Symphony, after we did the 2 symphonic pieces, since Woody himself loved the music of Duke Ellington so much, we did C-Jam Blues. This gentleman came out and joined the symphony, and as he was playing, everyone in the symphony suddenly woke up and realized they were part of that beautiful world, because Hugh was doing something you couldn't write down on paper that was just so unique and so beautiful and so musical and so refined and so sophisticated and so soulful. You can't do much more than that. Mr. Hugh Ragin. Playing bass, I know you all know him, and when I was interviewed on Kuvo, the wonderful woman who did the show afterwards said, "You know, I'm so glad you're back in town again, Dave, at least once a year." And I said, "Well, thank you." And she said, "That's because I can hear Artie Moore." And I feel the same way, and you can hear Artie also at Chapultepec with this beautiful band of Freddy's all the time, too. And a special guest, because Tony Black has another gig of his own at the last minute, and he was nice enough to come in and play until Tony gets here, and it was a treat to finally get to play with him, Denver's own Peter Gregory. So we're going to play a special tune that Freddie likes to play, and since he's the band leader par excellence, he will introduce it and give us the musicological perspective of what's happening.
We're going to do a number that was done back in the 50s by the great Sonny Stitt. It's called Blues Walk, Old Age.
Freddy Rodriguez. And the Neal Cassady Annual Vegetarian World Quartet.
I'm down to El Chapultepec every Wednesday and Thursday, and I'll be celebrating my birthday on February the 10th and the 11th. That's a Wednesday and a Thursday at the El Chapultepec. I'll be 85, and you're all invited. I don't know if you'll all fit. Thanks a lot.
We're going to play a piece now that we did just a few nights ago in Boulder at a wonderful program at E-Town celebrating the waterways of the world, and especially those in Colorado and other places. And this is one of the most beautiful places in the world, surrounded by water, island called St. Thomas. And when I came to New York City in 1955, about 8 months before I met Jack, in 1956, all of us used to go to hear Sonny Rollins, and when I wasn't playing with Mingus, I went down there and was blessed to play with him. He wrote this wonderful song based on a terrific folk song from his folks' home in the beautiful West Indies, and this is called St. Thomas. And just before I do that, especially for the young people who are here, I'd like to read something that Jack Kerouac himself wrote about himself, about Neal, and about all the sincere, beautiful people that he met in the world, all of which are in his books, and also in Neal's First Third, when you read that, that kind of got overlooked when, after Jack's work being ignored for so long, suddenly became so fashionable that they had to name a merchandising label to include a whole army of people, including myself, who were lucky enough to know Jack and Neal. And the so-called Beat Generation, which was not like the Trilateral Commission or the 10 Days That Shook the World or the head of an international corporation. We were just all people hanging out with one another, and anybody was welcome to the table, because like jazz, there was always a chance for any young person or old person to come and sit in and be part of it. There were no trespassing signs at all. Everybody was, just as this beautiful place has been in Denver so long, a welcoming place to be. This is what Jack himself wrote, so I just wanted to read it. It's only 4 lines. So if you're told that you went to the Neal Cassady event, and you said, well, that's very interesting that you were so the Beat Generation or aberrational group of misfits and low-life, stoned-out losers, that's a perfectly constitutional right to be ignorant and get paid for it. However, fortunately, now people, the new generation, are actually reading Jack's books rather than trying to get into the fashionable clothing that was worn 60 years ago. So here it is. Jack was asked what this is all about, and he's called This Is Beat. I want to speak 4 things. For the crucifix, I speak out. For the Star of Israel, I speak out. For the divinest man who ever lived, who was a German, Bach, I speak out. For sweet Muhammad, I speak out. For Buddha, I speak out. For Lao Tse and Shun Tse, I speak out. For D.T. Suzuki, I speak out. Why should I attack what I love out of life? This is beat. Live your lives out? Nah. Love your lives out. Jack's words. This is our version of a great old song. We want to thank Mr. Gregory for playing the drums. Wasn't that terrific? Yeah. And if you want to come back and play some hand drums, any of my stuff, please come up and grace us with your presence. This is Sonny's beautiful song. It's called St. Thomas. And in case you don't recognize one of the highlights of living in Denver to hear his great playing, Mr. Tony Black on the drum. We have some wonderful mystery guests coming up and some people reading two very short, beautiful things of Jack's, as I used to accompany him in the first ever jazz poetry readings done in the suburb of Aurora called Manhattan. Back in 1957, we did the first ever public jazz poetry readings. And just like those beautiful poets that you heard in the first half, it was all about the music and the sanctity of the word. So there was no screaming, freaking out, hollering, ham-acting MTV schlockola. It was more just probably the way the first great jazz poet Homer must have read on that ship, accompanied by a lira player, and someone was able to write down the 1,200 pages of what they remembered of his fantastic freestyling. Ours won't be that long, but we hope it'll be just as beautiful as it always is when you hear these wonderful words. But first we're going to play a song that Jack, Neal, and I, and Alan co-wrote. I did the music, and Jack, Neal, and Alan all contributed to a little poem. Every time they'd come to the city, there was a big book, and they'd write down a few verses. And when we did the film called Pull My Daisy, Jack decided which of the verses he would like to use. So this would be a somewhat abbreviated version of that long poem. And then that will set the stage for our two wonderful readers who was nice enough to stay, and you already heard reading two of Jack's pieces. So this would be the warm-up for that. And for those of you not familiar, it was a documentary 29.5-minute silent film with a cast of characters, except for Delphine Seyrig, who never acted, were not actors, which we proved by our non-performances. However, it was a lot of fun, and with Jack's genius narration, he made a home movie of all of us goofing around into something that's now shown in universities as an example of culture of the 1950s or lack of culture of the 1950s, depending on who you study with. But fortunately, we don't need a bottle of formaldehyde to appreciate anything that's beautiful, because if it's beautiful, it stays beautiful. This is Pull My Daisy. Well, here we are in Denver, USA, and it looks like it might be snowing tonight. But all the sunshine that all of you bring here in the beautiful cafe is yea, verily out of sight. So just we want to say on this Neal Cassady Day, it's number 7, don't you know? We never even thought that we would have a number 1, but that's the way things go. Because fortunately, people decided to go in that old bar where Jack and Neal used to go back in 1947, and I'm sure both of them are having a drink on us, listening and checking us out while they're up in heaven. And if they do, I think that we were through and they'll understand the beauty of all of this scene, because it was Neal who brought Jack into that beautiful world of jazz. You know what I mean? And all that beautiful world of jazz meant then, and what it means today, for which we could say amen, that is music from the heart, and whether or not you call it art doesn't matter, because it's so great anyway, that anybody who gets into that philosophy can have a much better night and a happier day, because they will learn, as we all do, to listen, to pay attention, to be humble, and to dig each other. And you can much more relate to your own family, your parents or your sister or even your own brother. And when you get to that point, and you don't have to worry about going in the joint in order to get an education there, you can be outside the prison system and find out there's a lot of other things that we can learn to bear. And that you can get that same knowledge of person to person the way Jack and Neal and so many other people did. And it's a secret that has been here for so long, but it's no longer hid. Because young folks today can go on YouTube and see the real deal themselves and take all those self-help videos and put them on somebody else's shelf. And then if they want to come down to Denver and go to Old Larimer Street today and see that the spirit is still there, that it's not what you're doing or how much money you make or what you wear. It's about celebrating the spirit that's here somehow, and we don't know where it comes from, but it doesn't make any difference anyhow, because it's a special thing to Denver that gets in our heart. And every time we come here, it makes this art much more important. And I don't mean Art Garfunkel, I mean the world of art itself. And you can do that whether you're in the Isle of Manhattan or even over in the Isle of Guelph. Now, people who rhyme compulsively like this are usually taken away for being certifiably crazy. So I'll only say to Jamie and her family and everyone else here, this is the introduction of 16 to Pull My Daisy. Pull my daisy, tip my cup, all my doors are open. Hop my heart for coconuts, all my eggs are broken. Hop my heart song, harp my light, seraphs hold me steady. Hip my angel, harp my light, lay it on the needy. Hop my heart song, harp my light, seraphs hold me steady. Hip my angel, harp my light, lay it on the needy. Well, when Jack and Neal came here a long time ago, way back in 1947, they knew that they had to put some bread in the oven and see if it would leaven. And it did, because they wrote some wonderful books. They're judged today not by the looks, but what the content of each page said, to make us feel that we're more alive than dead. It's only about art, don't you know? And each of us has our own road to go. There's not too much more that I've got to say. We got some great musicians here who could play. Now, if Jack and Neal had heard Hugh Ragin, they would have stayed in Denver all the time. But since Hugh hadn't been born during that period, they had to move on down the line. But you can hear Hugh Ragin now, because he's really going to play his trumpet for you. And after that, if you play an instrument, you'll go home and practice to see what you can do, Mr. Hugh Ragin. Well, when you heard Hugh play that solo, we could say thanks a lot. We could say thanks to the great creator in the sky who makes our spirits oh so high. We got a man who can really play, and he's got so much musically to say. With his amazing grace on the bass, bringing a smile to every space. He's the master of time and space, Mr. Artie Moore. Pull my dash, tip my cup, all my doors are open. Hop my heart for coconuts, all my eggs are broken. Harp my heart song, harp my life, sorrows hold me steady. Hit my angel, harp my light, lay it on the needy. Harp my heart song, harp my light, sorrows hold me steady. Hit my angel, harp my light, lay hey 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 hey. That's the way Jack used to hear people Scott singing when Neal brought him down to 5 parts a long, almost 70 years ago, but it doesn't make any difference because when it's beautiful, it stays beautiful, and the time seems to go slow. And years later, Jack realized that he had to get off the scene, just as his father told him to do before he ever came to Denver, USA, way back in a much earlier time, you know what I mean. In his hometown of Lowell, Mass., a beautiful old mill town where his dad only spoke French at home to him. And he used to say en le style québécois. There's the folks who spoke French with a Québécois accent because their culture had determined that for the last few hundred years. So they thought it was cool. Even academics figured it wasn't Francais Lyonnais. It didn't make any difference anyway because it was real. And his dad used to say, mon cher Jacques, si tu restes ici toute la vie, sûrement tu es obligé comme ta mère à travailler tout le temps dans une factory. Which meant translated into New York keys that you better split the scene and get out of here, you know what I mean, or you're going to end up working in a factory like your mother's been doing all her life. So Jack, with his football skills and all those thrills, when he made that famous touchdown against Lowell High School way back in the early 40s, because of the fact, like Neal, he was also a champion bookworm who read just about every book in the Lowell Library, just as Neal did about every book in the Denver Library. And their cards prove it if you want to check out that in a museum somewhere, because they were real intellectuals, but they knew it wasn't what you said or what you would wear, but rather what you absorbed from the geniuses of the past, so you could appreciate the beauties of each day of the present and have it last. So Jack went to Horace Mann, that prestigious school, and never wanted to become an overeducated fool, but he had the opportunity of a lifetime to get a scholarship to go to prestigious, ivy-covered Columbia U. And the second week in practice with the great Lou Little coaching, he broke his leg and was so upset he didn't know what to do. And Lou Little said, man, maybe you better ship out of Academe and go someplace else to play a different type of game because your football career is through. So he went out to sea and had about 13 different types of day jobs, which we all did way back then and felt it was no shame because we knew that the important thing was to write, paint, play, or sing and not enter into anybody else's careerist idea game. And after writing the entire version of On the Road, which is number 10, not using Benzedrines, but rather drinking coffee and taking the 10th version of a book that he's loved so much that Neal inspired him to write in a different way into a great gigantic scroll. And 7 years passed, and finally someone decided maybe we should be put together to make that journey whole. And that scroll came here in Denver quite a few years ago, and the great Carolyn Cassady came along to grace the scene and show us what she did know. And now people over the world have that scroll unfurled and can read what Jack wrote and appreciate without having to vote on its style, because after a while you don't care about that. It's the content, not the bottle that it is in. So with all those thoughts, we want to celebrate the 7th annual Neal Cassady Day for the joy that it brings us and the world to which it brings us in. So for everyone here at this beautiful cafe, we want to thank the owner who for so many years has made it into a paradise for poets. Don't you know it? In the interest of good taste and well-edited spontaneity, let's all pull our daisy